Welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. I am Brian Wampler, and today I have a very special friend of mine, Victor Lee, and we talk about dialing in EQ on a song versus a pedal demo. We talk about creating songs and how to really dial in tones to fit the song and using different effects to fit moods. We talk about the new Thornbucker Plus pickup, and we also talk about impulse responses. So let's jump right into it. Well, I have a very exciting guest today. Exciting for many ways because he's a friend of mine and he will soon be a friend of yours. And if you haven't checked out his stuff on YouTube, you're going to have to. I require it. Victor Lee's with me today.
Hi.
A very young and upcoming guitar player, I guess you could say, right?
Thank you.
You have a YouTube channel where you do all kinds of stuff. You have some of your music on there. And you have some reviews and stuff like that as well, right?
Yes.
What's your YouTube channel name?
It is youtube.com/VictorLee335.
Victor Lee 335.
I do not own a 335 yet.
That was my next question. Is that because of the guitar, or is it because
it is because of the guitar? It's just my desire to own one. I have not yet to have one.
So let me get this straight. You want a Gibson 335?
Yes.
Yet I'm staring at probably a $3,000 Sir, maybe. Two of them.
Well, that is not that expensive, but
Okay.
It is a Sir.
Right.
Indeed. But
so it's not your typical Squire.
I guess so.
So I guess what I'm saying is, technically you could sell one and buy the 335.
That is actually I struggle a lot because like when I do have the money to buy a 335, like I gravitate towards like an S style guitar, like another S style, because you can't never have enough Strats. You know?
Right. Or Telecasters.
In my case. You know.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Telecasters up there.
Oh wow, yeah, you are a Tele fan.
I do like Telecasters.
I'm in awe staring at it.
Okay, so a couple questions I wanted to ask you for this episode. I think one of the big things I want to kind of go around is tones in music. Okay. But the first thing, and I'll get to that. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the stuff on your record, or on your record. I'm such an old fart. Back on your record, I was your age. We didn't have them fancy tape players. So on the music you're creating, you always seem to get very specific tones for very specific parts in order to create like an emotion or a feeling or just a sense of emotion, I guess, just from the sound and choice of effects alone.
Right.
So like, what's kind of going through your head when you're doing that?
Well, I think first and foremost, the tone is definitely a part of emotion. So I don't know if I'm thinking like a jangly. Like an edge of breakup thing, like I would reach for like a Voxy style amp with EL 84s and some light overdrives. Pick the guitar that's like not too dark. So sitting the mid range, I feel like the mid range sets up the mood in terms of lead tones, especially like where you want to sit a lead guitar in a mix. So I would carefully think of that and realize where I want to sit the guitars depending on which mid frequency I want. So I would pick different distortion pedals, different amps, different guitars.
So how do you know what frequency you're looking for?
It is very hard to say. Like there's no hard and fast rule to me. It's
like something you're hearing in your head.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not like if I want it to be metal, I'm at, I need a 57 and I need a metal zone and, and a PV Bandit, right?
Right. Like if I want a more like honky, like mid-rangey thing, more like a thing, I would pick this mahogany guitar with like a slightly hot pickup. Or if I want something more sound, open, more like lighter lead sound, I would pick a Strat style with the PAF style humbucker in the bridge, that sort of thing,
Right.
And Les Paul styles definitely have a different punch than something like this.
Right. So whenever you're doing that, are you hearing like effects as well? Are you thinking that, I need delays that are doing this and they sound like this with a reverb over the top, and like, are you thinking along those lines as well, or is that something that you're experimenting with after you've got it recorded, or what's your process for that?
Usually, I record everything dry, just to have options for me to play around with like different wet effects, and for delays and reverbs and things like that, like I approach it more spatially. So like, what kind of stereo image am I going for? So is it like a ping pong delay, left and right bouncing thing, or is it more like a tape delay that is panned to a specific direction and doesn't really bounce around? It's just there to cheer you up.
Right.
So modulation is a different story, but.
Okay, cool. So that actually segues perfectly into where I'm thinking of next. And we had this discussion a little bit ago. We're dialing EQ in a song, like you just talked about, versus like doing a pedal demo.
Right.
I know, and I was having this talk with Blake Weiland as well, where you see a lot of guys just throw a 57 in front of an amp,
right?
And that's what they do their demo with, and that's great. It's a very inexpensive mic, affordable mic, I should say.
Right.
Everybody's got one.
It is stable.
Like everybody who records a guitar pretty much has a 57, right? So what that sounds like. I always like to use a couple different mics that I'm trying to get the sound of the actual amp in the room.
As close as possible.
As close as possible. So, which is totally different than like a recorded tone.
Exactly.
So we did that video a little bit ago, which when you listen to this podcast, it would be like a week ago.
Indeed.
Right. So a week ago we did that podcast, and that video, and you're like, we need to cut some bass out of it. We need to raise some. You're basically saying, I need a 57 here.
Right.
And I'm like, but it's set up for a pedal demo. So we got very creative on what type of pedals to achieve that. So it's kind of cool to really just kind of approach it from a whole different angle than you would if you sat down and said, I'm going to record this song. You know what I mean? Or something along those lines.
Right.
So I think, and I think that's one thing that, I don't know if a lot of people put a whole lot of thought, or even maybe they don't know. I don't know. I'm sure they do, but I don't know if people put a whole lot of thought in making the pedal demo itself sound as accurate as possible versus making it sound like it's going to fit in the context of a rock song or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like for example, like using the 57, great sound, but it is heavy in the 2K, I think 2.5K region, somewhere in there. Unless you're real close to the speaker, you're going to cut some bass.
Exactly.
If you're but you're going to get, if you're real close to the speaker, you're going to add some bass. Yeah, the proximity effect. So the further away you move it away, you're going to lose bass.
Right.
And it's very directional, versus like a condenser that's going to capture. It's a little more. It's not totally omnidirectional, but a little bit more, right? So, and that's always interesting to me. You as a kind of a consumer, I guess, of gear videos, do you like it whenever someone's miking the amp better, or do you like it better whenever someone's got a camera audio? Which do you feel is more accurate?
Definitely miking.
Really?
Yeah, because when I'm looking for whatever gear, I am instantly thinking recording, because that's primarily what I do these days. Whether it is playing for other people or like playing for my own music. So definitely miking.
Right. And speaking of miking, you got the what is it?
Reactive
load.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you're kind of explaining to me about that. Is that something that you like to use out of convenience, or is it, what's like for you, what's the main benefit of that piece?
Let's see, a whole lot actually. It has changed my life. To be honest, because I don't really have a room, like a live room, to mic, like great cabinets with, good microphones like you do.
Well, I have MXLs. I'm not using $10,000 microphones.
Well, still, like I all I have is a little closet. So to me, it sounds better when I use an IR, like a captured impulse response of a great room with the great microphones with great preamplifiers and whatnot. that bottled sound sounds better to me than me trying to mic up a cabinet in a closet with a 57.
Right. Because you're so limited to what
Exactly,
you have.
yeah. And then if I want to blend in two microphones like ribbon and a dynamic, I don't have to think about getting the phase right,
Right.
The balancing right and whatnot. If I just load an IR that I really like, it's always
Right.
going to be there. It's going to sound exactly the same. And I know what it sounds like, so
Right.
it's definitely both convenience and sonic advantage.
So have you ever used like an analog style amp simulator, amp simulator, I guess?
Yes. I have used a pedal that is very similar to SansAmp, the Liverpool SansAmp.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that particular pedal, but it was a knockoff,
was a knockoff of it?
that, yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I forget what brand it is now, but yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yes.
So basically, it's the same thing, just made somewhere where it's less expensive.
Yeah, without the speaker defeat feature. So the speaker sim
really?
is always on, yes.
Wow.
I know.
So sometimes it sounds really great. Other
Yes.
times it's
I've done an open mic with it. It sounded great, clean, honestly. And it is kind of off when I go to bridge position and then trying to do the
right.
crunch thing. I think that's where the analog amp sims struggle the most to me, like in my experience. So yeah.
So if you had, do you feel that one has, now not speaking of price or anything, like sound wise, tone wise, in your opinion, as someone who records mostly, would you prefer an impulse response or would you prefer analog?
I would definitely prefer impulse response.
Would you?
Yes.
What about using something that's like a digital EQ, like a sound or even sound profiling or anything like that?
Right. See, I have not actually captured impulse response myself, so like I don't really know the process like a palm of my hands, but
Right.
I feel like impulse responses captures more than just the EQ curve of a specific sound. So I don't know whether it be the reflection of the room,
Right.
or
Well, it's kind of all that, right?
exactly, yeah,
So, because the way impulse responses work, basically you're running a signal into the cabinet,
yeah.
and you had the microphone set up the way you want them, whichever microphones you want, and like you get the whole sound. So it's
Right.
bouncing off walls, and the mic's picking up a little bit.
Oh, totally.
Those little reflections,
Totally.
So and you know what's really cool is impulse response based reverbs, convolution reverbs.
Convolution reverb, yeah.
So and I mean just it's night and day the difference between like a DSP reverb and like a convolution reverb. Just so it's exciting, especially on my end, as I see like where things are kind of heading, and as we're learning new things to be able to do that stuff. It's exciting that to kind of push forward in that field, even though like to others they may not look like it because like you just released an overdrive, dude. It's like, yeah, but you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. Like there's a team of monkeys who I'm training to write DSP code. And the head of them is Jake Steffes. I'm
Yes.
kidding. He's going to love that. So you got the Sir. You like impulse responses. And you talked about the own hammer impulse responses specifically. And are the Celestion impulse responses out now? Or?
Celestion impulse response, they're out, yeah.
They are
yeah,
available.
It's fairly new.
Right. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Celestion, the speaker brand, actually came out with their own impulse responses. I haven't tried them yet, but I assume that if the speaker company's making an impulse response, it's pretty damn accurate. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
probably pretty
Like
good.
they know.
Yeah. I mean, they're not a little small company.
Right.
Often some, like you said, some closet somewhere trying to make their own impulse response. I mean, they probably put a ton of money into it to try to get it right. And I know the own hammer stuff, at least some of the ones I've heard are just fantastic. But there's also bad impulse responses too. I mean, I've heard some pretty rough ones. I'm like, whew, I could probably get that sound by turning down the 6K on my Boss EQ pedal.
Totally.
And I don't think that's not a fault of own hammer. I think it's just from everybody trading impulse responses.
Yeah.
Which is I know I'm like totally rabbit holing everywhere here, but that's another cool thing about impulse responses is if you do have a cool one, you can like email it to me,
Yes.
and now I have the sound of your
Is it
amp.
legal?
Well, if you make it,
Oh, if I made
Yeah,
it. Okay,
like if
okay,
you-
yeah.
yeah,
Not
I
if
mean-
it's like a commercial.
Yeah, it's
but-
probably I mean, it's definitely not legal to like buy all company A's impulse responses and be like,
Let
I'm
me
gonna
just send
sell,
you my library.
yeah, I'm gonna sell these on eBay on a CD. Immediate download. I probably wouldn't do that. That's probably a great way to get sued. But I mean, it's handy though. Like if I happen to have one that I particularly like, and you're trying to match that sound or that amp or whatever, you know, it's a handy thing to do. So I think it's a very cool idea of a direction that DSP is going.
Yes.
You know,
I
so,
agree.
and you do engineering stuff, right?
Yes, I'm an electrical engineer.
You're an electrical engineer. What? So, and again, another rabbit hole. What are you studying for guitar pedal stuff, or are you going to actually do something that makes money?
Wow, if you put it that way. I mean, ultimately, I would love to do something that I don't feel like it's work. So,
So you want to make
guitar audio.
So you want to test
is-
cookie dough for a living?
That doesn't sound like work to me, so I'll take that.
That's what I always said. If I could just be a cookie dough tester for a living, life would be life
easier.
would be complete.
Yes.
So a close second is guitar pedals. I'm not too far off, but it's not as good as cookie dough.
Yeah, definitely not.
So and you're studying at Purdue. Are you a junior? Senior?
I am a junior.
You're a junior. Okay. So kind of like walk me through the stuff that you guys are in a third year engineering program. How, I mean, kind of walk me how that is relational to guitar pedals, or even if it is. I mean, it may not be in any way. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, if you're thinking like overdrive or distortion pedals, the school doesn't teach you how to distort an audio. They want everything to be as clean as possible. So that's probably something that you would have to learn yourself. And I'm thinking, as Jake told me so.
Jake Steffes, a Waffle
Yes.
engineer. Yeah.
I'm also taking a microcontroller class, which is very practical in my opinion. I'm learning a lot. It is a lot to digest, to be honest.
Right.
I asked a lot of questions.
Are you ever like, but how do those capacitors sound in a guitar pedal circuit?
Right. I think that you just have to test it out, like, you know, film versus.
Do you ever ask your professor, like, should I use film capacitors?
That should
for
be my
this?
next question. My next office hour, I'm just going in with my guitar and it's like, hi, what if I use this capacitor versus this one?
So is that something that you are going to kind of try to get into?
I am.
effect,
I
you
am
think?
definitely interested in that audio field. Yeah.
Or more like recording, maybe. I mean, do you have like a specialty that you're shooting for, or at this point?
I mean, it is changing. Last semester, I was really into the plugins, like audio plugins.
Oh yeah,
Just because I was, you know, using a lot of them, you know,
Right.
trying to record.
they're addicting.
They are addicting. They're very subtle.
It is like buying guitar pedals, except it's much cheaper. Well, no, I take that back. Some of them are much cheaper because there's a lot of free plugins.
Exactly.
Some of them are much more expensive.
Yeah,
big
right.
time. But yeah, I mean, there's so many of them.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Once you start to hear like the differences that, you know, each plugin, I mean, like this compressor, it is 1176, but, you know, can I say, like, mention a
Sure,
company name?
sure.
Like, you know, Waves make one, you know? If they make it, it sounds a certain way. If I'm using a Steven Slate one, it sounds different. The one of the Logic sounds different. It
Right.
is all 1176 model, but it is different.
It's kind of like their interpretation of it. I would say.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is addicting. It is definitely addicting. Those subtleties are definitely contributing to a particular parts. Like I said before,
Right.
it is all, you know, addition of different small
Right.
things.
So are you in school? Are you able to do any like pedal projects or anything like that?
For senior design, no, I take that back. Not the senior design. In my microcontroller class, you can utilize a microcontroller to do a mini project at the end of the semester. And some people do MIDI stuff, which is sort of music related.
Yeah.
You know, like a launchpad sort of thing.
Yeah.
You could also do like a guitar automatic tuner, like Gibson's. You can sort of do that, you know, like to read the
Right.
frequency of the string and then match
Yeah.
that. Not particularly a guitar pedal. I mean, you can probably do like modulation stuff, right?
Right.
So
So that's kind of too old school then, I guess, for engineering in 2017.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, musicians like old school. I like old school.
I mean, I'm sorry, for like if you're in college and you want to do that as a project,
right.
your
Like,
professor's going to be like, we're not doing
we're
tubes.
not doing that. Definitely not. We're not doing tubes. Like that's way back. You know, we have transistors now.
And you're like, but you don't understand. The tubes sound so much better.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, and that's it's always interesting, at least to me from my side. It's always interesting whenever a guitar player is in engineering, because yeah, I mean, it's really different whenever there's an engineer who happens to have a guitar. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like so, he knows like a couple chords and he bangs around on it, but he's still primarily an engineer at the end of the day.
Right.
Versus a guy that like knows how to play guitar, really well. And now he's approaching engineering from a whole different mindset. You know what I mean? And
it makes sense.
His ears are already like yours. You've been playing for a while, and your ears are dialed in. So you understand that there are these intricacies that you may not be able to see on a piece of paper or some spreadsheet somewhere, but it's very real. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's always interesting to me, because there's not a whole lot of people who have that ability, who have the two left and right brain approaches to stuff. So
Yeah.
that'd be a good thing for you, I think.
Yeah, I believe so too. I am. Yeah.
So it'd be fun.
Yep.
Let's see. And then finally, so that I'll segue very smoothly like that was into the next subject, which is I see you have a Sir guitar with an odd pickup in it. It's a lonely little chap just sitting there by itself with its two are those ivory or white? Those
It
are
is
white.
actually shoreline gold. It changes color under.
I mean the pickups.
different-
I'm sorry.
the pickups.
Yeah.
It is cream. I
Okay,
think.
so it's like
They call
two.
it cream.
So this one would be like a
Like aged
black,
white-ish.
like a blackish metal pickup. That's a metal.
That
pickup,
is
right?
not a metal pickup, actually. It is actually Pete Thorne's pickup.
Is it?
Thornbucker Plus.
Oh,
is
nice.
A PAF Alnico 2. Was it 4? I'm not quite sure. Sorry, Pete. I think it's 4. Definitely not 5, because I'm used to the 5, Alnico 5. Alnico 5 PAFs have more like a sharper attack and stuff, and it is smoother. So
Is it?
yeah, it took some adjusting. But now I have this guitar, so that can be
So
a little
that one
softer.
sits. Gotcha.
Yes.
So was that how many pickups did you go through to get that one?
Oh, like 6 different pickups.
Really?
Yes.
So
Oh, man.
after 6, that's what you settled on.
That's what
Or
I
after
have
5.
now.
Gotcha. What am I trying to say? How did you get from point A to point B? Like, how did you arrive at this point after all those pickups? What was wrong with them that you didn't like? And and we'll address that along the way. So, like, the first thing you had was obviously the stock one. Mm-hmm. You didn't like the stock one just because.
It is not that I didn't like the stock one. It is just my musical taste changing, the things I play changing. So yeah, it is merely my personal
Right.
preference changing.
So it's like buying a different guitar pedal. You're just like, that's
Right.
cool. I'm just ready for something different.
To me, pickups are more. I don't know. Like for lack of better words, closer to my physical touch, I guess, because it is like the first thing
Right.
that picks up the audio. Like it is picking up my touches and whatnot. So I mean, I do hear big differences in my playing when I have a different pickup. I don't know if it sounds odd to some people, but like personally, I
Right.
think I play differently on different pickups. So.
Right. So what did you go to after your stock pickup?
The stock was V70s and then SSV, so I changed that to V60s,
Okay.
and I kept the SSV. And then in order to balance that out, because V70s are a little less output than V60s, so I changed that to SSV Plus,
Okay.
and then I bumped that up to SSH, which is a bit hotter, like 12K or something like that. 10K or 12K. And I'm bad with numbers here. And
That's
then,
not good for an engineer.
I know. I know. And then I got a Thornbucker, the stock Thornbucker.
Right.
With the nickel cover. And then I wanted something a little bit hotter. So I went to Thornbucker Plus. These things need better But I am settling. Oh, and then the neck pickups now is a V60 LP.
Okay, so
Very
you change that
technical.
too then. So what I always notice about changing pickups is one pickup may sound great in guitar number 1, and you take that same pickup out, put it in guitar number 2, and it's totally radically different.
Exactly.
You know, have you noticed that same thing?
Yes, I feel like pickups you don't really know what it sounds like until you put it in your guitar,
Right.
Play through your setup.
And I've seen like on some websites where they'll have like like kind of like a chart of what it sounds like, and I'm like, I mean, maybe you can kind of approach it that way, but I mean, it's still going to be like different from guitar
Like
to
a
guitar.
guessing game. Like to me, it's more like a comparison sort of thing. Like if I have a certain pickup and I'm seeing a chart with like treble, it is treble on 7, bass in 4, mids in 5 or something, and then the other pickup has like treble and bass lower, and then the middle is up. So okay, this is going to be more a meaty
Right.
sounding pickup. So I can get that much, but like I wouldn't
Right.
exactly know, you know.
Yeah, I think you would have to take that with the like if you know that your guitar's dark, then you probably don't want a pickup that's going to roll off a lot of treble.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? So yeah, makes total sense. All right, so very cool. Do you have a website yet?
I have a website, www.victorleemusic.com. You can visit
Cool.
me there.
And is all your social stuff there?
All my social medias are linked to it.
They're
So-
linked to it, or are they linked from your website?
From my website.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. So make sure you check them out on like
Instagram.
and Twitter
Sounds
and Tinder and
Tinder?
No, just teasing. Don't look that up. You don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You're probably on Facebook. You're on Facebook, right?
I am on Facebook. I don't have a page yet.
You
Should
don't?
I create a page?
You don't need-
Because you can do like business stuff with your Instagram. Like you can do
Yes.
advertisement.
You
Like
can advertise. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make one.
You can. That may be an option. So, so everyone listen, make sure you check Victor's stuff out. Also, make sure you go to his YouTube page because there's some really good stuff on there as well. So, appreciate having you, Victor.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening to the Chasing Tone podcast. I really appreciate it. I'd really appreciate it if you could also leave a review on iTunes if you like this podcast. Or even if you don't like this podcast, then leave a positive review. I'd appreciate that as well. Make sure you check us out on Facebook. We have Wampler Pedals Tone Group. We have the Wampler Pedals Group. We have Instagram. We have YouTube stuff. We basically have everything except for Tinder. So make sure you check us out there as well, and we'll talk to you next week.